It was a quiet morning until the spit hit his face. Derek had walked that same sidewalk 100 times before. Black suit, polished shoes, briefcase in hand. The sun reflected off the glass buildings around him as he moved with purpose toward the city's downtown core. He was early, as usual. He believed punctuality said a lot about a man. Then came the sound that always made him tense up, a sudden police siren chirp and the crunch of tires pulling up too fast beside him. "Hey, you! Stop right there." Derek turned, brows raised, as Officer Kyle stepped out of the patrol car, hand already resting on his holster. The cop was mid-30s, buzz cut, aviators, and that air of entitlement that came from wearing a badge he hadn't earned through character. "Yes, officer?" Derek asked, calm and respectful. Kyle didn't respond right away. His eyes scanned Derek from head to toe like he was sizing up a threat instead of a citizen. "What are you doing around here?" "Walking to work." Kyle scoffed. "In that suit? What kind of work?" "I don't think I'm obligated to explain that." Wrong answer, at least in Kyle's eyes. "You people always have something to hide," Kyle snapped, stepping in closer, his voice low and venomous. "Show me your ID. Now." Derek's expression didn't change, but a subtle shift in his eyes said he'd been here before too many times. Still, he reached into his jacket slowly and pulled out his wallet. But before he could open it, "Drop it," Kyle barked. "Don't move." Derek froze, eyes wide. "It's just my wallet, officer." Kyle stormed forward, snatching the wallet from his hand like Derek had tried to pull a weapon. He didn't even look inside it. Walking in this neighborhood, dressed like that, acting smart. "What are you trying to prove?" Kyle hissed. "Think you're better than everyone else?" Derek's calm broke just slightly. "No. I'm just trying to get to work like everyone else." And then it happened. With a sneer of disgust, Kyle leaned in and spat right in Derek's face. The warm shock hit him just below the eye. He didn't flinch. He didn't lash out. He just stood there, frozen, the spit sliding slowly down his cheek. People had started watching from nearby. No one stepped in. No one said a word. Derek slowly wiped his face with a handkerchief from his pocket. He looked Kyle straight in the eye and said, with quiet confidence, "You're going to regret that." Kyle laughed. "You threatening me?" "No," Derek said. "I'm promising you." And with that, he turned and walked away, unshaken, composed, his back straight as ever. Kyle stood there fuming, yelling something about next time, but Derek didn't even look back. If Kyle had known who he just spat on, he might have choked on that laugh. But the real surprise was only just beginning. You only get one first impression. Don't screw this up. Sergeant Hayes paced the station's front lobby as officers scrambled to straighten picture frames, mop floors, and replace old, torn bulletin board flyers. The place hadn't looked this clean since the mayor's last surprise visit. In the briefing room, Kyle sat with his feet kicked up on the table, scrolling through his phone like none of it mattered. "Man, they're acting like the president's coming," he muttered. Officer Ramirez glanced at him. "Dude, maybe show a little respect. This guy outranks everyone here." Kyle snorted. "So what? New command comes in every few years, swings their bat, and then fades into the background. I've seen it before." Ramirez lowered his voice. "Not this one. Word is, he turned around 3 corrupt precincts in under 5 years. Fired half the staff at one. The dude's serious." Kyle shrugged. Uninterested. "He better know his place. This is our house." Meanwhile, in the captain's office, Hayes and Captain Fields reviewed a dossier labeled D. Walker, Deputy Commissioner Assignment. "His record is flawless," Fields said, flipping the file shut. "Military background, FBI training, 8 commendations. The brass trusts him." Hayes nodded. "Let's hope he doesn't get rattled. This precinct's got rough edges." Fields gave him a look. Maybe that's exactly why they sent him. Across town, Derek Walker stood inside a luxury apartment overlooking the city skyline. He adjusted the cuffs of his tailored shirt, then gently lifted his black leather badge holder from the desk. Inside it, the gold-plated emblem of the Deputy Commissioner of Internal Operations. He exhaled slowly, remembering the spit, the sting of humiliation, the fire of restraint. It wasn't just about pride, it was about something much bigger. His silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. He picked up his phone and called his driver. "Bring the car around. We're right on schedule." Back at the station, tension hung in the air. An email alert buzzed across the department computers. Deputy Commissioner Derek Walker will arrive at 9 a.m. sharp. All staff must be present in full uniform. Cal chuckled when he saw the name. Walker? Sounds like another tight-suit bureaucrat, he said. I'll bet he's never even been on patrol. Davis, sitting nearby, quietly muttered, Careful. Some men don't show their strength until it's time. Cal sneered. What, you know the guy? Davis didn't respond. Just then, Hayes entered the room. Everyone on your A game tomorrow. This isn't just another supervisor. This man has the authority to restructure the entire department. The officers looked at each other, some nervous, some curious. Kyle just leaned back with a smug grin. Let him come, he said. I'll show him how things really work around here. Outside, rain began to patter against the windows, as if foreshadowing a storm on the horizon. Kyle had no idea that the man walking through those doors tomorrow was the very same man he had spat on just 24 hours earlier. Everyone stand. He's here. The station fell silent as heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Officers straightened their uniforms, tugged at collars, and stood at attention inside the briefing room. Even Kyle, reluctantly, rose to his feet, though he still wore that smug grin. The front doors opened and a man stepped inside. Polished shoes. Crisp black suit. Authority radiating from every movement. Derek Walker. His presence alone shifted the air. Not a word spoken, yet everyone could feel it. This wasn't just another bureaucrat. This man was in charge. Kyle's grin faltered. His eyes narrowed as Derek walked closer, flanked by Captain Fields and Sergeant Hayes. Something about him looked familiar. Then Derek removed his sunglasses and slowly scanned the room. That's when it hit. Kyle's face dropped. His eyes went wide. His throat tightened. It was him. The same man he'd spat on. The man he'd humiliated in public. Only now he was the one in uniform. The one with the badge. The one who outranked every single person in the room. Derek met Kyle's eyes. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just stillness. Cold, calculated stillness. Good morning, Derek began, his voice smooth and commanding. My name is Deputy Commissioner Derek Walker. Starting today, I oversee internal operations for this precinct and several others in the district. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. I believe in discipline, transparency, and above all, respect. You give it and you'll get it. Kyle stood frozen, barely breathing. A bead of sweat slid down his temple. I've reviewed the files, the misconduct reports, and the culture here, Derek continued. Some of what I've read is disturbing. He slowly paced the front of the room. But I didn't come here to read papers. I came here to witness things for myself. His eyes flicked toward Kyle again. And I've already started. Every officer glanced at Kyle now, confused. Kyle looked down, trying to shrink into his own skin. Derek moved on. There will be changes. Real ones. If you've been doing your job with integrity, relax. You've got nothing to fear. But if you've been abusing your power, cutting corners, or treating people like they don't matter, your time is up. He paused at the center of the room and looked around at the silent, tense faces. Respect is not optional. And for some of you, that's going to be a hard lesson. Then he turned toward the captain. Briefing is over. I want individual meetings scheduled with every officer by end of week. The room remained still as Derek walked out, leaving only the echo of his footsteps behind. Kyle stood like a statue, silent, stunned, humiliated. He had spit on his boss, and now there was nowhere to hide. Send in Officer Kyle Mason. Derek's voice was calm as ever, but the message landed like a gavel. Sergeant Hayes gave a subtle nod and exited the office. Out in the hallway, Kyle sat stiffly on a bench, hands clenched together, eyes locked on the floor like a child waiting for punishment. Every second felt like an hour. The knot in his stomach twisted tighter with every breath. Mason, Hayes called. He wants to see you. Now. Kyle stood slowly, his legs heavier than they'd ever felt before. He adjusted his belt, took a breath, and stepped toward the office. 2 knocks on the door. Enter came the voice. Kyle opened the door and walked in. There he was, Deputy Commissioner Derek Walker, sitting behind a large oak desk, papers neatly stacked, a steaming cup of black coffee in his hand. The same face. The same man. Only now the power dynamic had flipped completely. Officer Mason, Derek said, not offering a seat. Close the door. Kyle obeyed. Silence. Derek stared at him for a long, uncomfortable moment. No expression. No hint of what was coming next. Do you know why you're here? Kyle hesitated. I assume it's about yesterday. Derek leaned back, setting his coffee down slowly. Yesterday, he repeated. You mean the day you profiled, harassed, and assaulted a man in broad daylight without cause? Kyle swallowed hard. Sir, I didn't know who you were, That's the problem, Derek cut in sharply, voice still even but now edged with steel. You thought I was just another black man in a suit, walking through the wrong neighborhood. Kyle didn't respond. You didn't ask questions. You didn't assess a threat. You just acted. Based on skin. Based on bias. And then, you spat on me. Derek stood now, walking slowly around the desk until he was inches from Kyle. Do you know how many complaints I've read with your name on them? Excessive force. Rude behavior. Racial comments. All swept under the rug. But not anymore. Kyle's lips parted, trying to form an excuse, but no words came. Derek leaned in slightly. You don't deserve the badge you wear. You've disrespected it. And worse, you've endangered the very people you swore to protect. He stepped back. As of today, you're suspended pending internal review. If I find even one more incident in your record that confirms what I already suspect, I will see to it personally that your badge and your career are gone for good. Kyle looked crushed. Exposed. Powerless. I made a mistake, he said quietly. Derek tilted his head. No, Officer Mason. You revealed your character. There was nothing more to say. Derek pointed to the door. Dismissed. Kyle turned and left, his footsteps hollow, his future uncertain. Derek stood alone in the quiet office, watching the door close behind him. The message had been sent, and this was just the beginning of his cleanup. Did you hear? Kyle's out. Suspended. The news spread through the precinct like wildfire. Whispers floated between desks, locker room doors creaked open as heads leaned in, and even the veteran officers, those who never batted an eye at internal affairs, were suddenly on alert. Officer Davis leaned against a hallway wall, arms folded, watching the shift happen in real time. For once, Kyle Mason wasn't the one stomping around with his chest out. His locker remained closed. His usual lunch table sat empty. Man's been untouchable for years, Ramirez murmured to Davis. Thought no one could touch him. Someone finally did, Davis replied. Inside the captain's office, Derek sat with Captain Fields and Sergeant Hayes reviewing files. A thick folder labeled Internal Review Officer Misconduct lay open before them. This isn't just about Mason, Derek said, flipping through the pages. He's a symptom, not the disease. Fields nodded. We've had a culture problem here for years. Certain officers pushing boundaries, ignoring complaints. Some of the junior staff are too afraid to speak up. Well, not anymore, Derek replied, pushing the file aside. I'm not here to babysit. I'm here to rebuild. Meanwhile, Kyle sat at home, staring at his suspension letter. The silence was deafening. No calls from his usual buddies. No support from the same officers who used to laugh at his locker room stories. No defense. His phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. You disrespected the wrong man. Clean your soul. He stared at it for a long time before setting the phone down and burying his face in his hands. Back at the station, the shift was already taking shape. Derek had initiated new guidelines. Body camera compliance audits, anonymous complaint reviews, mandatory de-escalation training, and, for the first time in the precinct's history, a diversity and ethics task force. Some officers grumbled. Others welcomed the change. But all of them watched closely. Because if a cop like Kyle could fall from grace in less than 24 hours, no one was safe from accountability. In the lunchroom, a young black officer named Parker approached Davis. Was it true? Parker asked quietly. Did Mason really spit on him? Davis nodded. Parker looked stunned. And the commissioner didn't retaliate right away? Nope, Davis said. He waited, observed, then struck where it hurt the most. Parker gave a slow, impressed nod. That's power. Davis smiled faintly. That's leadership. Back in his office, Derek stood at the window, watching officers moving about the lot below. He knew the job wouldn't be easy. Change never was. But today proved something. You don't have to raise your voice to shift a culture. Sometimes all it takes is standing firm and making sure no one forgets who's in charge. And he was just getting started. This place feels different. 2 weeks had passed since Kyle's suspension, and the atmosphere inside the precinct was no longer the same. The tension that once buzzed through the walls had shifted into something else, something tighter, more focused. Officers now walked straighter, spoke with more awareness, and thought twice before acting. Even the locker room, once a haven for crude jokes and whispered racism, had grown quiet. Conversations were sharper, cleaner, more professional. Deputy Commissioner Derek Walker had become a name that carried weight, not just because of his title, but because of what he represented: accountability. In the main conference room, Derek stood before a fresh crop of officers during their morning briefing. Behind him, a new department banner read, "Integrity, respect, service." "You all know what happened," he began, his voice steady but charged. "You saw how fast things can fall apart when ego replaces empathy, when power is abused rather than honored." A few heads lowered. "But you've also seen that change is possible. This station is turning a corner. Not because I'm here to scare you straight, but because you're starting to remember why you became officers in the first place." He paused, letting the words breathe. "You're not just enforcing laws, you're representing what justice looks like in real life. Out there, every action counts. Every word. Every glance. People don't remember your badge number. They remember how you made them feel." The room was silent, listening. Derek continued, "This precinct will no longer protect racism, violence, or silence. Those days are over. You have the chance now to rebuild trust, to lead by example, and to be the officers this community actually deserves." A few officers nodded. One clapped. Soon others followed. It wasn't loud or forced, just honest. Outside, in the parking lot, Kyle Mason arrived in plain clothes, summoned for his final hearing. His head was down, his eyes tired. He walked past fellow officers, some of whom didn't even look at him anymore. Inside the office, Derek met him one last time. "This is it," Derek said. "The review board found enough in your record to justify termination. Effective immediately." Kyle nodded. No fight left in him. "I made a mistake," he murmured. "No," Derek corrected. "You made a series of choices. The mistake was thinking there'd never be consequences." As Kyle stood to leave, he paused at the door. "You could have retaliated. You didn't." Derek looked up. "That's the difference between us." Kyle left quietly. No badge, no weapon, just regret. Back inside, Derek stepped out into the open office where officers continued their work. He watched a younger cop helping a civilian at the front desk, speaking kindly, offering clarity. Derek smiled faintly. Justice wasn't just about punishing the bad. It was about protecting the good. And in this precinct, a new standard had been set. One that would outlast the headlines, and maybe even change a few hearts.